Did you know that back in 1896, two rival firms actually produced what many considered to be the very first vans? The first was a motorised truck that was capable of carrying a 1,500 kilogram payload. The second was a sort of boxed body that was then placed on top of the chassis of a motorised carriage and delivered to a Parisian department store. Who were these two firms, you say? Well, the first one was Daimler. The second one was, well, it was a chap called Carl Benz. And these two would later combine their efforts and merge. And then in 1926, they would change the name of the company to the much more recognisable Mercedes-Benz. And ever since then, Mercedes-Benz has gone on to give us some of the world's greatest cars, not to mention some pretty decent vans, including back in 1995, the original Sprinter. But as we know, time and tide, not to mention electrification, waits for no tradesman. So, does the very latest generation of the Sprinter suit being electrified? Or, as they say in Germany, das ist Wurst, which I think means this is all sausage to me. Anyway, welcome to another van review, welcome to the Mercedes-Benz eSprinter, and as always, welcome to AutoEV. Now, before we get on to this week's review of the new Mercedes-Benz eSprinter, it is of course time for me to ask you to give the video a bit of a thumbs up. Subscribe to the AutoEV channel and press the little bell button down below so you're notified of when our next video goes live. As always, if you've been a subscriber so far, thank you ever so much for your continued support. If not, please consider becoming one, because by doing so you help us remain independent and bring you great content, including these van reviews. Now, the Sprinter. As I say, it was launched back in 1995 and it replaced the very popular Mercedes TN. And it's gone through three generations, from this generation being launched back in 2019. But as I say, now they have an electric version of it. You can have the Sprinter in various different styles as well. There is 4 different lengths, 2 different heights, and numerous different body styles, including things such as Luton vans, panel vans, and drop sides. Well, that is unless you do want the electric one, you see, because if you decide that electrification is for you, then it only comes in one body style, which is this, the medium length high roof panel van. But will it suit your business? Well, let's put it through another AutoEV van review and find out. Now, styling wise, there isn't anything that differentiates the electrified Sprinter from the diesel engine compatriot, well, apart from the little electric badge that you get on the side wing. This here, this visage that you see, is exactly the same one that's normally pressed up against your back bumper on the fast lane and the motorway. You still get the Mercedes-Benz kind of grille, even though obviously it doesn't need it. The badge, handily, doubles as the charging flap. So you get AC and DC charging ports in there, but we'll obviously come on to that later. You get obviously the big, handy, practical big plastic bumper with an integrated step, which is nice and handy for you to get up on board, clean your windscreen and service your wiper blades. Otherwise, it's standard fare Sprinter. And around the side of the van, well, much the same story really. It's a standard fare Sprinter. Electric badge along the side, as I say. They don't use the EQ nomenclature like the Mercedes-Benz passenger cars do. It's just badged electric. Standard 16-inch wheels, steel wheels. You can option alloys if you really want, or put covers on them. You can also handily option up mud and snow tires, or mud and slush tires, I think it's called in the price list as well, depending obviously where your use of the van is. That might be quite handy if you're going on and off building sites. Also, the electric Sprinter sits slightly higher than the diesel equivalent, just because of the packaging for the batteries. Also, because of that, you don't get the option of a side step that you do in some of the other ones, and the diesel ones that pop out the side, because obviously the batteries are slung underneath. Just the one sliding door as well. There's just the one sliding door, and it's obviously on the near side on the right-hand drive markets. Say big plastic door mirrors. You also get these handy rubbing strips down the side, and they've got the 3 marker reflectors down the side of it as well. And then at the back, you've got your big twin opening doors. Central Mercedes-Benz badge that pulls open with that one. You've got your big 3rd level brake light at the top there. This one's optioned up with the reversing camera. But you also get the rear step as well, which is quite handy. eSprinter badging down the side, just to let you know obviously what you've got. look, it's like the van equivalent of a tin of Ronseal. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It's a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter. Now, the rear doors open through 90 degrees all the way up to 180 degrees, which is brilliant, which gives you really good access into this load space, especially if you're in like tighter areas. Standard fit rear step, nice and easy to climb up into, and what you're looking at there is an 11 cubic metre carrying capacity, because remember, as I say, there's just the one body length, just the one body height. So in terms of measurements, what are you looking at? Well, the doors allow a maximum load width of 1,787 millimetres, but that will drop to 1,412 between the rear wheel arches, but as you can see, that's still enough to get the pallet in, so no problems there. Your load height is 2,079 millimetres, and the load bay length, which is pretty decent, is 3,397 millimetres at floor height. But as I say, plenty of space in the back for little shorties like me. And you do get a rather handy grab handle at the side to help you as you get through your advancing years like I am. From the side door, which remember is just on the near side in the UK market, your maximum load width of the eSprinter is 1,260 millimetres with a maximum load height of 1,899. You get the steel bulkhead as standard, and of course, as I say, there's enough room in the back where you pop some ladders up, some step ladders up vertically. In terms of carrying capacity, in terms of the payload weight, it is just 731 kilos, however, because it's quite a heavy van, remember, and also you can't tow with it. Now, in the back, inside, you've got the standard wood floor, which then got a resin cover over it. It's got 6 tie-down points in the round actual floor itself, with a couple more on the back of the bulkhead, and of course you can have the option of having it completely ply load lined as well, which this van is fitted with. You've also got some handy LED lights, 3 actual in the whole of the back payload area. So nice and capacious in terms of being a van, and probably quite au fait with maybe a camper conversion, perhaps. Now, if you're looking for luxuries in here, you're going to have to look elsewhere, I'm afraid, because it is quite basic, but it's also quite a nice cabin, to be honest with you, as well, depending obviously on what your needs are. Everything feels like the smaller Vito, exceptionally well built and like it's going to last forever and a day. And there is some very good storage around the cabin as well. I've got, again, a wonderful driver's seat. It's so comfortable. It holds you just in the right places. You've got a nice length of squab here. I've got a fold down adjustable armrest as well. So again, the driving position itself is really comfortable. Standard 3-spoke steering wheel, no buttons on it because there's nothing to have buttons for, if I'm honest with you. And then you've got your brake regeneration paddles behind that, which we'll go on to a little bit later. 2 column stocks obviously for your indicators, your wipers, and obviously your main beam and high beam. And then this column stock on this side is your transmission selector, like you see on other Mercedes-Benz products. Very, very basic instrumentation, speedo on left, economy meter on the right, which obviously would normally be a ref counter, but you've got your charge, economy and boost gauge there with a little LCD cluster in the middle to give more information, which I'll show you later. In terms of equipment, what you see is pretty much what you get. You do get a heated driver's seat as standard in the Sprinter, which is a welcome addition certainly, but no climate control, again option. You've just got standard air conditioning here, so you've just got your fan speed and your temperature control. Above that sits just a basic DAB radio with a USB input, so no sat nav. What would really be a welcome addition here, especially with the UK laws changing in terms of the use of a mobile phone, and most people probably now use their mobiles for some form of navigation, would be standard fit Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. I think that would be a real welcome addition here, as I say, given the laws and given the type of use that the Sprinters are going to be given, such as deliveries and such like. To have some form of screen there, infotainment screen, with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, I think would be an absolute boon in this marketplace. Anyway, storage around it is good. You've got 4 cup holders, believe it or not, 2 in front of the driver, 2 in front of the passenger, and they'll take sort of like standard fit size kind of cups, although they won't take, like the Vito, my Mercedes-Benz water bottle, but there is enough space for that down in the door. There's also 2 big bins here, which I think you can option up with bottle holders as well, so that's okay, plus a place for your mobile there and 2 small cubbies in there. No glove box, and believe it or not, a passenger airbag is an option. Now again, I'm going to go on to options a little bit later, but why is a passenger airbag an option? That's crazy. Anyway, it is. What else have we got? Well, we've got a couple of bins there. Obviously, for putting things in like iPads and notepads and clipboards. There's a big centre one in there. This one's also got above driver storage as well, so that's quite nice and handy. We can pop things in. There's also a host of things up here in terms of obviously turning your alarms off and turning your lights on and off as well, and the Mercedes on-call system as well, so to signify that there's a problem, which is quite nice and handy to have. Now, you might be wondering as well why there's an interior mirror when you've just got a steel bulkhead there. Well, that's to do with the reversing camera, because there's no screen here, the reversing camera image comes up there. Now, it's small, but it does have it, so that is quite decent, I have to say. This particular van's got the twin passenger seat. You can have it so it's just a single passenger seat, but personally I wouldn't, because what you can do is you can tip this one forward, and actually it's got quite nice storage down in there, which the cable bag goes into. So I would stick with the crew passenger seat. And as I say, the rest of it just feels well built. You've got the same kind of vents as you do in the passenger car, these little turbine air vents that turn and click, and all the materials, well, quite hard plastics, as I say, feel really well screwed together and feel like they're going to go the distance with you. It's just a shame, as I say, from the safety point of view. Now, there are some safety systems on the Sprinter, don't get me wrong. I know we said that there was a huge amount not on the Vito, which there still isn't here, but crosswind assist, emergency braking assist, that is standard on it. Although things such as blind spot assist, which this van has, and lane keep assist is still an option. And as I say, I'm struggling to understand why in this day and age, in 2022, you don't have a passenger airbag as standard, but there you go. But on the whole, a very comfortable place to spend time. As I say, the driving position is nice, as we'll see when we go and have a drive in it. Everything's nice and clear and well laid out, within easy reach, just lacking that little bit of final touches that would turn this from a good van into a great van interior. Now, as we've been saying all along, the Sprinter is pretty much a one-size-fits-all type of van. So one length, one height, one battery size, which is a 55 kilowatt hour battery, which should give between 82 and 95 miles of range according to WLTP figures. The reason there's 2 figures is to get the higher one, to achieve the higher one, then that's with the factory speed limiter fitted at 50 miles an hour, which obviously is an option. If it's standard, then it's more likely to be the lower mileage that you're likely to achieve with it, which isn't brilliant given the Sprinter's sort of like use as normally a long distance kind of delivery machine, but it's fairly on par for the class, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Now, in terms of charging speed, that's where the problem lies, you see, because although you've got the ability to fast charge, the van will only take as standard a 20 kilowatt charging speed, meaning to go from the benchmark 10 to 80% takes 2 hours. Now, you can option it with an 80 kilowatt onboard charger, and if I was you, I'd dig deep and make sure that you had that, because the 10 to 80% benchmark then drops to just 30 minutes, and of course the least time the van is sat stationary, the more efficient it's being for your business. If you're using a 7 kilowatt wall box, then it's just over 7 hours to charge from empty to full. Now, the eSprinter develops 114 brake horsepower through its front mounted motor and 295 Newton meters of torque, which is enough to, well, as the Institute of Advanced Motorists would say, make good progress. We'll leave it at that. You've got different driving modes depending obviously on your driving style and maybe where you are, and they're accessed via this little button below the stop start button on the left hand side here. Now, the van starts up in E mode, which I assume means economy, And the two other ones you've got is either E Plus for when you really want to get the last bit of mileage out of it, and Comfort. Comfort for me is probably the best one, in fairness. If you can sacrifice a little bit of mileage, then it's the better one to drive the van in, because you get a little bit more response from the throttle. When you're in E or E Plus, the throttle response is, well, it's a bit dead, if I'm honest with you. You feel like you're pushing the pedal through the bulkhead to make any kind of forward motion at all. So yeah, I go with the Comfort mode unless you really need to eke it out. Where would you use E or E Plus? Well, I suppose if you were mostly driving around about the city or the town, then it probably makes sense there. Ride quality is good. Ride quality is lovely, I have to say. It's very comfortable. I mean, this is unladen, this van, obviously, at the moment. But there's very, very little suspension noise and movement comes through into the cab. It's nice, can't complain with that. If you had a bit of weight behind it, it would be really well damped, so that's nice. The steering's got a nice weight behind it as well, you know, where the wheels are pointing. Very like the e-Vito we drove the other week. The refinement is what really comes through, that it's quiet, it's comfortable, it feels smooth. That's what I'm really impressed with this van. That's what's really won me over with it. Brakes are good. Brakes have got a nice feel to them as standard, but you've also got 4 levels of brake regeneration available to you via these paddles behind the steering wheel. Oddly enough, it's the right hand paddle with the plus symbol that takes the regen off. So that doesn't add regen, it adds coasting ability. It's the left hand paddle with the minus that gives you the regen, and if you ramp it up, take the foot off, it's got a good level of regen actually. Yeah, that's pretty good, it's pretty decent. What else to say? Well, the cabin in all its basic functionality works really well. Everything's nice and easy to see. The instrument cluster in a typical Mercedes-Benz fashion. It reminds me actually a little bit of the really old-fashioned Mercedes from the 70s and 80s, where they were, I had an old Mercedes 190E Cosworth, and the dials are like that. Really basic, nice, easy to read at a glance, and I really like that. You've got a little digital kind of trip meter in the middle here that tells you your range, obviously what setting you're in, how much battery you've got left, your time, outside temperature, that type of thing, and your mileage, and that's nice and easy to use as well. Although, as I say, I'd like to see a little bit more visual, you know, sort of like enjoyment rather than a sea of grey plastic around me. And as I say, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, I think, is a real glaring omission, especially with the new laws surrounding the use of mobile phones in vans. How often do we see a van driver going along trying to put an address into sat-nav or into his mobile so that he can go there? I think a bit more thought needs to be put into that Mercedes. Otherwise, this is a nice van. You know, if you need a large capacity van and you want to go electric, then in terms of the way the eSprinter drives, I can't really fault it, to be honest with you. As I say, if I was going to do a little bit of fault with it in terms of its actual driving, a little bit more throttle response would be nice. I'm not asking it to be a Tesla, but just a little bit more. There's a weight behind the throttle. You've really got to push down hard on it, even in comfort mode, to get it to do much. But it's okay. It's all right. And as I say, bear in mind you can also have it with a factory-fitted speed limiter as well. So that might be a consideration for you, especially if you've got a couple of James Hunts driving for you. And no, that's not rhyming slang, just in case you wondered. Now, in terms of price, the eSprinter, as I say, only comes in the one size, so it's a nice and easy price to discuss. And it is £53,000 before VAT and any options fitted. This van has a couple of options, the metallic paint and the reverse camera, and a passenger airbag and a couple of other little bits in it, which adds up to another couple of £1,000. It's also eligible for the £5,000 government AutoEV grant, so it's £5,000 or 35% off the price of the vehicle, whichever is the greater of the two. Now, that's a lot more than a combustion engine Sprinter, but don't think you're paying just for the badge, because it's on a par in the marketplace with its competitive peers in terms of what else is available out there as electric large vans. So you're not just buying the badge, don't think you are. You've also got to think about your running costs, because obviously to fill the Sprinter with electricity is a lot less than to fill it with diesel. And then of course you've got your inner city congestion charges, your ultra low emission zones to take into account, not to mention your servicing costs as well, which will be lower because servicing items will be less. Now, most of these manufacturers in terms of the vans are offering some type of service care package, and it's well worth looking into that, especially when it comes to something as expensive as the Sprinter or its contemporaries. Mercedes-Benz also offers the van with a 3-year unlimited mileage warranty for parts and labour, and 8 years or 100,000 miles on the batteries alone. You also get the Mercedes-Benz Mobilio assistance, which is 30 years, yes, 30 years of UK and European roadside assistance. And the other benefit you get with Mercedes-Benz is a lot of their commercial dealerships are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which means your van is spending less time off the road. So these are all cost factors you have to think about when you're in the market for one of these large panel vans. So in terms of those competitor vans, what else could you be considering with such a large van as this? Well, Fiat's new e-Ducato is certainly going to be one of them, and that's a van we're going to be testing very, very shortly. There's also its partner vans from the Stellantis group, from Citroën, the e-Relay, from Peugeot, the e-Boxer, and from Vauxhall, the e-Movano. There's also the Maxus, the e-Deliver 9, and from LDV, the EV80 to consider. Renault have an electric version of the Master. Now, some of these vans are slightly different to the Sprinter in the sense that they will offer more of a configurable body style, if you like. Some offer chassis cabs, some offer drop sides, some do different lengths and different heights. So please obviously do check with those manufacturers, depending obviously on what you're looking for. But much like the smaller e-Vito that we tested the other week, one of the big competition that's going to come for the Sprinter is wearing a Ford Transit badge, because that is a van that obviously leads the marketplace, and it's going to be available in lots of different configurations, including a van of this size. Now, as I said earlier, most of these contemporaries don't offer much more of a range than the Mercedes, so don't be too put off by that in terms of that. And it's really only the Maxus who are claiming an over 200-mile range on that van. Most offer somewhere between 80 to 120 miles from their vans, so don't be too hard on the Sprinter. And it is obviously a Mercedes-Benz at the end of the day as well. Is that important to you, having that badge on the front for your business? There's plenty of competition coming on stream that might make you question that. So here's what we like and what we don't like about the Mercedes-Benz eSprinter. We like its imposing styling, its capacious carrying capacity, its robust interior, and it's comfortable. We don't like very basic dashboard design, the lack of standard equipment, its relatively short range, the fact that the quick chargeability is an option, and there's only one size and trim option available. According to Mercedes-Benz's research, the majority of European van drivers do less than 62 miles on average every day. So why weigh a van down with big heavy batteries that possibly aren't really necessary for you? And I can kind of see that argument. So I don't really think the range is one of the Sprinter's biggest drawbacks, because to be honest with you, the majority of its contemporaries don't do that much more. Where they do win, however, is like the diesel Sprinter, they offer more configuration. Whereas with the eSprinter, all you're left with is a medium-sized van with a high roof. There's no other option with it, that's it. Now that may be enough for you, of course. And in terms of inner city deliveries, I'd have thought this is plenty big enough for the majority of people. It's also nice to drive, it's very comfortable. It lacks a few options, and well, as I say, there is obviously that lack of body styles that's going to be a bit of a drawback for it. So how do we conclude a road test on the eSprinter? Well, if environmental conscious and low running costs coupled with a prestige badge is exactly what you're after, then the eSprinter makes a sensible, if not class-winning, choice for you. Thank you once again for watching AutoEV. Please remember to like the videos and subscribe to the AutoEV channel. And make sure you press the little bell button down below so you receive notification of when our next video goes live. We do have lots more coming in terms of van reviews and car reviews, so make sure you stick around for them. We're also on all social media channels: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, so make sure you go and give us a like there because every little bit helps. And if you like what you see and you want to know more about us, then stick on the AutoEV YouTube channel for our back catalogue of road test review videos. All that's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching once again, and I'll see you again soon. So, you've watched our video. It's now my job to tell you to like and subscribe and press the little bell button to receive notification of when our next video is uploaded.